Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Ladies Lounge. We're very glad to be on your screens again today and we hope you're doing very well. So today we're going to talk about something really serious. FGM, female genital mutilation. I don't know how many people really are aware of this menace happening and how long it has been illegal in the UK. It has been illegal since 1985, and in 2003 it became a criminal offense. So we are appalled that it's actually still happening, and that's what we're going to be talking about today to create awareness so that our young girls can stay safe. So with me today, I have very lovely guests. First of all, of course, I have our lovely Ejiro.
Oh, hello, sweetheart.
And then I have very lovely girls who are, well, girls. Oh, I just called you girls. That's a compliment. Ladies who are in the forefront of this campaign. I'll introduce Janet first, Janet Fyle. Yeah, did I pronounce it properly?
Yes, absolutely.
So she's a policy advisor in the Royal College of Midwives. Yeah, and she's an advocate for this campaign.
Yeah.
And the campaign is actually called Let's Protect Our Girls. And on my right, we have Sarian Karim Kamara. And I did tell her I like her name. Sounds really nice. And she is the founder, director of Keep the Drum, Lose the Knife.
Yeah.
And that's a community initiative to end FGM. So, FGM. I want to start with you, Sarian, because I know you have a lot to say. So, what is FGM, first of all? Let our viewers know. In detail.
In detail.
Yeah.
FGM is female genital mutilation, and there are 4 types of FGM.
Okay.
You have type 1, where there can be breaking of the hood or the top of the clitoris, just to have a bleed. It just depends on which side or which community that is practicing.
The culture.
Yes, so we all do it differently. And you have type 2, which is like part or whole of your clitoris and your labia and the labia majora or minora, and then you have type 3, where everything is removed and the skin is pulled together and sewed up. So it depends on which parts you come from in Africa or other parts of the world that practice it. But what is really common in our side, because I'm from Sierra Leone, is type 2. And that's what was done on me when I was 11 years.
I'll come back to you. Let me go to Janet. Let's hear your voice.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know you've worked with a lot of people on this matter, and you're very widely read, if I would say, about in all this. So let's hear from you.
Okay. What I'd like to say about FGM that people need to think about, or cutting or circumcision, however our community describe it. I want people who are watching your program to go away with the thought that if they consider or have cut their girls, it is child abuse in this country.
Right.
And the long-term effects of them cutting their girls is quite disastrous. So FGM is not a culture. When I want to talk to my English friends and colleagues about my culture, I talk to them about the food, I talk to them about my language that I can gossip about them that they don't understand. But I would not want to share something as disastrous as FGM with my friends or my colleagues and colleague culture. Because the long-term effect for a girl or woman is terrible. It affects their sexual life, it affects childbirth, it affects their health.
Wow.
I want you to have a picture in your mind now, okay? So there's a girl who's 6 or 7 years old, and somebody pins them down, and she's screaming and there's nobody to help her, and the people she sees are her family or people that she knows, and they cut her, and she's forced to kind of accept it over a period of time. And then she becomes a woman and she gets married, and it's very difficult for her and her husband to consummate the marriage. She has a lot of problems having sex with her husband. She has flashbacks. She has problems with waterworks. But all of those are deep down in her mind.
Yeah.
Until maybe if she's lucky she gets pregnant, or she goes to see a doctor, somebody wants to do a cervical smear on her.
And they find that there's nothing
and they
there.
ask her a question, and it brings it all back. That day that they took her away and pinned her down and cut her in that place. And she lives with that in her mind. And the post-traumatic stress is worse than what soldiers experience on the battlefield. Okay? So the minute you ask that person who's had that buried in her head about it, the minute it all comes back to them. So just imagine it. So then you see this person go on to become an older woman. And once her children go to university, her life is over. She sits there in front of the television. People like us and doctors and others don't know about her backache. They don't know about the problems with her waterworks. Her husband goes off and finds another woman. So she is condemned for life the day they cut her. So I love my children. I love my grandchildren. I love my granddaughters. And if I do that to them, I'm committing an offense against them, whether I live in a country that has FGM as criminal offense or not.
So I'm gonna have to cut you short so that you can throw light on one area. So how big an issue is it in England?
In England, it is quite an issue because our communities are very closed, and the men in our communities need to speak up for their daughters.
I was going there as well.
And they need to say that their daughters can become scientists and engineers and do very well for themselves, and not condemn them by being silent when FGM is happening. And to the mothers, that they need to protect their daughters. And to the young people, that they need to look outside of this thing that somebody tells them is good for them. It isn't.
So is that the reason why you came up with the campaign of Protect Our Girls? Do you want to just speak a little bit more on that? Because now it's tuned into the reason, because you just gave a very passionate explanation, a very, very passionate picture. And I sit here and I'm just going back that picture at this woman at a later age sitting right in front of the television, her life completely over. That is not a great picture. So is that the reason, the brain behind the Protect Our Girls? And can you just say a little more
Well,
about
I'm sure when the government brought this campaign, maybe that's what was in their minds. So
absolutely.
I can tell you about that. But we all campaigned together to end FGM. But what's in all our collective minds is the fact that you're causing harm to girls. There was an MP for this area who said, if little blonde girls were going abroad and coming back with the tip of their thumb cut off, the whole country would be up in arms. So if you're looking after the interest of one group of girls, we need to look after the interest of all our girls who live in this country.
Absolutely.
They deserve better. They deserve our protection. They deserve to have the same standards of care that everybody else has.
So I'm going to say, now, the moms who allow their girls to go through this in the 21st century, what could be the problem with the moms now, not the girls?
Okay, so
because they need to be sensitized. They are definitely being pushed by something.
You know, I say we because I come from a country that practices FGM. I come from Sierra Leone, in the 80-something%, and I'm an African. And I think this is a blight on the continent because we keep quiet instead of saying this is wrong. Because if you look at societies where women participate in the society, they progress better economically and in all areas, socially.
Absolutely.
So if Africa is doing this to the girls, they're disabling women for good. Okay? So even here, if we do it, we're disabling the girls for good. There are lots of other things we can do. The impact is terrible. And for mothers, they can no longer sit down and say it is the aunt. that take the child abroad or arrange for it to happen here.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the law is such that you cannot point to anyone, because if you're the mother, the legal guardian for the child, you are responsible
Absolutely.
if FGM happens to the girl. So that's one law I'm glad that the government has implemented. And I think mothers have to think very carefully, because the law says you're responsible for protecting your child. And sometimes it's difficult for mothers. They think that somebody is forcing them. But you could call somebody to say, I'm being forced to have my child cut. So there's no excuse in the law. So mothers have to be aware. You given a gift of a girl, so protect that girl.
Protect that gift.
That brings me to a question. You know, they need to be sensitized, they need to be aware. But what is the reason why a mother will do this?
Pressures
from
but maybe it was done on her, I would assume.
Or is it a belief? Is it, I mean, okay, cultural thing, probably,
so,
you know.
A woman who has had FGM is more likely to have FGM done on her child. More likely. That's what the research, the evidence is telling us. But the whole business of FGM is embedded in cultural practice, in purity, virginity, protecting girls from being promiscuous. That is the interpretation of our people. I'm going to keep saying our people, because I'm part of the community that practices FGM.
I'm part of that community.
We're all part of that community. And I think that women who live in this country, there are many laws to protect us. We can no longer be hiding behind.
I'm gonna ask a very practical question to Sarian. So, by being circumcised, did it actually stop you from being promiscuous, or did it stop you from having sex when you did? Did any of that actually do the things that it said it will do? I want you to hold that thought.
Okay.
And we'll go on a short break and we'll be right back.